Uh, Good evening to all the students. And I am Dr. Vikas Goswami. I am a senior consultant in the Department of Medical Oncology at Max Hospital. If you have any queries, you can let me know. I'll be very briefly talking about sarcomas, especially soft tissue sarcomas, and what are the newer updates and newer therapies. I am uh, I am being told that you guys already had a class on standard therapies of sarcoma last week. So I'll be talking about the newer updates. So for advanced sarcomas, the traditional therapies have been anthracycline, platinum, ifosfamide, gemcitabine, taxanes. So this we all have, and this class must have been covered last time. We also know that we had an amazing drug by the name of olaratumab, which had a astounding success in phase 2 trial. Was a failed trial of phase 3. Here olaratumab was being tried as first line therapy, and we all know olaratumab is a monoclonal antibody, especially against PDGFR, both A and B. So as of now, olaratumab is not approved in first line. So coming to newer chemotherapies, the drugs which are there apart from the traditional therapies are trabectedin and eribulin. Now, trabectedin is a phase 3. Trabectedin got approval based upon a phase 3 trial, which was the SAR 3007 trial, where it was compared with dacarbazine. And trabectedin showed improvement in progression-free survival for leiomyosarcoma, where the PFS jumped from 1.6 to 4.3 months. It showed benefit in liposarcoma, where the benefit jumped from 1.5 to 3 months. Now, besides this, there was a publication in 2015 in Lancet, which also showed the benefit of trabectedin in translocation related sarcomas. Now, sarcomas traditionally have a lot of molecular variations and translocations. So wherever you find such translocations, as a very broad guideline, this paper showed the benefit of trabectedin versus best supportive care. The other drug in second line, which we often use, is eribulin, and the basis of its approval was this paper by Shofsky, which got published in Lancet in 2016. Now, here liposarcoma was, eribulin was compared with dacarbazine, and it showed a overall survival benefit in liposarcoma. Here, the 8 months overall survival jumped to 15 months in case of eribulin. So, besides these two drugs, the other drug which we have is pazopanib. Now, pazopanib, we all know, is a multi-kinase inhibitor. It inhibits, it targets VEGF, it targets PDGFR. If I just show you the broad diagram, we have various targets which lead to formation of sarcomas. Now, this diagram is taken from a publication of a book, and you can see the various pathways where we have various growth factors by the name of IGF, which is insulin-like growth factor, SGF, HGF, VEGF. VEGF is vascular endothelial growth factor, FGF, fibroblastic growth factor, and so on and so forth. So these ultimately culminate into various kinases and effectively then land up into a PIK3 map mTOR pathway, which eventually leads to sarcomas. So pazopanib is a multi-kinase inhibitor, and it was assessed in PALET trial, and it was a randomized trial where pazopanib was compared with placebo, and adult patients with metastatic soft tissue sarcoma and poorly differentiated sarcoma were taken into this trial, and what was excluded was adipocytic and GIST. So we can see on the left hand side on the Kaplan-Meier curve the median PFS jumped from 1.6 to 4.6 months, and this was highly significant. The overall survival also improved from 10 months to 12 months. However, it was not statistically significant. So, pazopanib showed similar improved survival in leiomyosarcoma, synovial sarcomas. So, as of now, it's FDA approved for treating patients with advanced STS who have received prior chemotherapy or who are not eligible for chemotherapy in first line. So the standard drugs in second line are pazopanib, eribulin, and trabectedin. And if you and to compare the side effects, pazopanib, the main side effect is fatigue. Other side effects are derangement in liver enzymes, and a very peculiar side effect of pazopanib is change in the color skin. The patients usually consuming pazopanib become 1 or 2 shades lighter in their skin, including whitening of their hair and eyebrows. For eribulin and trabectedin, the most concerning side effect is bone marrow suppression, and it is seen as per various percentages. We can see for eribulin versus dacarbazine, the most common side effects are neutropenia, anemia, thrombocytopenia, and the same for trabectedin. So to summarize, the main benchmark treatments as of now, which are used left, right, and center, are eribulin, pazopanib, and trabectedin, which I discussed. Apart from that, the older drugs, Gem plus docetaxel and Gem plus the carbazine, this much we have. Now, moving beyond these kind of therapies, we have other targeted agents for specific indications. For example, we have sunitinib. Sunitinib is again a multi-kinase inhibitor, including a VEGF inhibitor, and sunitinib is fairly effective in alveolar soft part sarcoma, clear cell sarcoma, and solitary fibrous tumor, including hemangiopericytoma. Now, if you take it as a group, these are less common, but if they are, we have a targeted drug by the name of sunitinib. Another drug which is a immunosuppressant, basically it's a T cell suppressant, is sirolimus. It's a fairly toxic drug, usually used in renal transplant patients, and its indication is there in perivascular epithelioid cell tumors. Now again, it's a rare tumor, but small phase 2 trials, especially the one which was published in 2013 by Dixon, and another paper published in JCO in 2010 showed the benefit of sirolimus in this small subgroup of patients. Moving beyond, another drug which is creating some excitement is regorafenib. Regorafenib, now understand, anything which ends in a nib is a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. For example, I just mentioned sunitinib or imatinib. Similarly, regorafenib is a multi-tyrosine kinase inhibitor, including VEGF and stromal and oncogenic receptors. The main use of regorafenib in sarcomas is in refractory GIST. However, there are some papers which are not published, which have been presented in abstract form, have shown benefit of regorafenib in extraskeletal osteosarcomas, and also some activity is seen in non-adipocytic soft tissue sarcomas. So we have a drug, we can use it if we are short of other options. Bevacizumab, it's a monoclonal antibody, it's an IV drug used in angiosarcomas, and cediranib is a drug which has shown some activity in alveolar soft part sarcoma. However, it's not available commercially anywhere. Another class of drugs is called as CDK4/6 inhibitors. Now, CDK4/6 inhibitors are extensively used in breast cancer, especially hormone positive metastatic breast cancers in first line and second line, and they have shown tremendous success in breast cancer. Now, why they are being discussed in soft tissue sarcomas is that a majority of well differentiated liposarcomas have amplification of CDKs. Now CDK is cyclin dependent kinase. It's an enzyme which if you recall, is used in cell cycle. Now this enzyme gets over secreted because of amplification of CDKs, and this pathway is being tried to use and exploit in soft tissue sarcoma. So we have early phase trials which show the benefit of palbociclib, ribociclib, and abemaciclib in soft tissue sarcomas. However, the benefit is not astounding as much as in breast, and we are trying to understand the mechanisms behind it. So moving beyond to the new kid on the block, immunotherapy, the checkpoint inhibitors. Now, we all know that checkpoint inhibitors are one of the major class of drugs in oncology, and so they are being tried in soft sarcomas as well. So the major trials which showed some activity for soft tissue sarcomas were the SAR SARC 028 trial. It was a small phase 2 study to evaluate the tolerance and efficacy of pembrolizumab in soft tissue sarcomas, and we found that objective response rates to the tune of 18%. In this waterfall plot, we can see that patients had up to 18% patients had reasonable response, and patients included leiomyosarcoma, pleomorphic sarcoma, poorly differentiated or dedifferentiated liposarcoma, and synovial sarcoma. So this is exciting. Similarly, another trial, Alliance A 091401, it was another phase 2 trial which tried to understand this time a combination drug, nivolumab plus ipilimumab, was it effective in STS or not? And the results were that if we combine Nivo plus Ipi, the response rates were around 16%. So they were replicating Pembro. However, if we saw Nivo alone, now the response rates were less to the tune of 5%. Now this is confusing because on one side, Pembro alone is working to the tune of 18%, and on other side we have Nivo plus Ipi combination, which is around 16. However, Nivo alone is 5%. Now this means that that we need to understand the biology more. However, comparing two phase 2 trial data is also not acceptable, so I concede that, but then this was the best which we have as of now. Various trials are being evaluated in various stages, phase 2 or phase 3. If you look at the bottom right, we have pembrolizumab plus olaratumab. Now, two monoclonal antibodies being evaluated in unresectable STS. Other drugs, for example, avelumab plus trabectedin, trabectedin plus nivo plus ipi. So various combinations are being evaluated. So things are being evaluated. In the coming years, we'll know where these drugs stand. So moving beyond microsatellite instability and pembrolizumab. Now we all know that pembrolizumab has an orphan indication for all microsatellite unstable patients. So the MSI if you check in terms of sarcomas, is in the range of 1 to 5%. Now, if you strictly go by MSI, you will find it in less than 5%. However, I showed the SARC 028 trial, which showed benefit of up to 18%. So science is evolving for immunotherapy. What we need to know is that it is also an option and can be used when other options are not there. So NGS. So as medical oncologists, we all are very fond of ordering this test once we are short of other options. Does it make sense to order NGS in soft tissue sarcomas once our options are exhausting for frontline drugs and at first relapse? So the two kits which as of now are approved by FDA are the Foundation One CDX, and other is the MSK Impact. MSK Impact is the test used in MSKCC, and NGS has been evaluated as an investigative tool in STS in up to 5,000 patients. And a preliminary report, which was published in 2017, suggested that almost 23 to 25% patients might benefit if we order NGS. Now, what does that mean? That the study basically showed that 16% of patients could, in 16% we could find some target which was FDA approved, and in 7% we could find some target which was under study. So up to 20 to 25% patients might be benefiting by doing a NGS, and they might harbor some target which we can exploit. The common actionable mutations found are TP53, MDM2, CDK4, RB, and ATRX. So another drug which you will find whenever you open up NCCN for sarcomas is something called as NTRK fusion genes. Now, NTRK means again receptor tyrosine kinase. So there are various types. So NTRK genes, there can be various changes to the NTRK genes. One is fusion, other is mutation, other is amplification. So if we have NTRK fusions, which can be seen on NGS, or the protein can be evaluated by IHC, then we have a drug by the name of larotrectinib or entrectinib, which might be beneficial. So what is the frequency of NTRK fusion? It's less. It's less than 5% in sarcomas. Uh, for other drugs, for other cancers, it's more, but for sarcomas, up to 5% patients have it. So again, we have an option. I'm not saying it's the frontline option, but we have an option in this form. So based upon the small studies, it got an accelerated approval for both larotrectinib and entrectinib. Got FDA approval for metastatic soft tissue sarcomas and solid tumors. So it's a tissue agnostic approval. So wherever you find this mutation, it's got approval in metastatic setting, whether in front line or second line, and even in non-metastatic conditions where the patient is not amenable to surgery, or the surgery is deemed potentially morbid. So this drug has got an accelerated approval, both the drugs, entrectinib and larotrectinib. So if we see the NCCN 2020 guidelines, subsequent therapies in advanced soft tissue sarcomas, we discussed about eribulin, which has a category 1 recommendation, and pazopanib, trabectedin. Other drugs are traditional drugs, dacarbazine, ifosfamide, temozolomide, vinorelbine, and regorafenib we just discussed. What is interesting is this chart where you can see pazopanib is eligible for frontline for patients who are ineligible for chemotherapy. Larotrectinib and entrectinib are also eligible for frontline for patients who are ineligible for other kind of therapies, or even if they have NTRK gene fusion found. So we have something in frontline. The propensity for it is less, but we do have patients. So if we understand, like I said, where do we do it? NTRK fusion is a oncogenic driver. So it's not wrong to do this kind of fusion test upfront. Now this is important. Sometimes we do this kind of test down the line, but we are not wrong if we order this test upfront, because it's a driver mutation, and it can change the outcome of patients. The best modality to do it is either a NGS, or one might consider IHC to conserve the resources. Now, IHC may or may not be available for NTRK gene fusions, so NGS is still there. So again, coming to NCCN, we can see the drugs we discussed: sunitinib, pazopanib, pembrolizumab, sirolimus. Everolimus is a mTOR inhibitor. So one thing is interesting is pexidartinib. It's a multi-kinase inhibitor. So pexidartinib is category 1 recommendation. Now, what is it? Pexidartinib is a very interesting class of drug. It's a colony stimulating factor receptor 1 inhibitor, also having activity in KIT and other kinases. But by and large, the most important activity is it's a CSF. It targets the CSF activity, and one of the first of its class, and it has got approval as category 1 in tenosynovial giant cell tumor. The problem with this drug is, as of now, it's really hepatotoxic, and uh, it's not easy to manage the side effects of these drugs. So unless we have a very specific indication, we are not using it. One important thing, ALK inhibitors, which we all know are used in lung cancers, also have approval, both crizotinib and ceritinib, in patients with inflammatory myofibroblastic tumors. So the other drugs, like we said, we discussed palbociclib and pembrolizumab. Another class of drugs by the name of tasmetostat. Tasmetostat is approved in epithelioid sarcoma, and it's a very interesting class of drug. It's a epigenetic modifying drug, one of the first of its time, of its type. Now, we all understand that epigenetics also play a major role in carcinogenesis. A patient may not harbor any mutation and may still have cancer. The, the suspicion is that there might be some epigenetic modification which has caused this. So, tasmetostat is a potent and selective inhibitor of histone methyltransferase EZH2. So what you need to know is, somebody might ask you in your exams, it's a epigenetic modifying agent, and as of now, it's approved in epithelioid sarcoma. So to conclude, systemic treatment for sarcomas beyond first line is still evolving. Conventional treatments in the form of chemotherapy are forming the backbone. However, newer techniques are making a space for themselves, and in the coming years, we'll see much more drugs coming, because we'll be understanding the biology in a better way. With that, I conclude, and I'll stop my sharing.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very nice presentation. And if there are any questions, please unmute and ask.
So should we close the discussion if there are no questions?
Okay, sir. So thank you so much, sir. We are indeed grateful that you spent your precious time to educate us all. Thank you so much.
So pleasure is all mine, and I wish you all the best for your exams. And do send me the link of your YouTube channel. I'll be latching on to your lectures. Bye bye.
Sure, sure. Thank you, sir.